Hello, we are at it again with this month's astrological overview of the astrology of November 2022. So welcome to all alchemists who listen to the Alchemist Inkwell podcast, or anyone who is coming from TikTok or Instagram, where you might know me as @TheRealCrystalLyn. My name is Crystalyn. I'm a professional astrologer and astrology is my love language. So each month I like to pop in here and not only go over transit for transit, what we're expecting in the month, but also give you an idea of what it looks like for you, how you can actually use this in your daily life and what it might feel like for you. And then, of course, I'm going to do a slideshow and show you all of the charts, everything you need to see to be able to understand what it is we're coming into in the energy of November. And then you'll be able to actually download that slideshow as well and have it for a nice quick reference. So I'm going to get started by sharing the slides so you can see what I'm talking about. And just note that you will see me glancing back and forth because I've got charts, I've got notes, and I've got the slides, and I've got you. So my eyes might be all over the place, but my focus is on giving you the best information with the most integrity to the material that we're dealing with as possible. So I'm going to share our lovely PowerPoint, or whatever this is called. It's called a presentation. I'm already off to a great start. So this is the astrology overview for November 2022. And one of the things you'll notice on the first slide is our major highlights of this month, the ones that we're most focused on. That's the lunations, the new moon and the full moon, or in this case, they're actually reversed. It's the full moon and the new moon, as well as the initiation or the ingress of Sagittarius season. So we'll be looking into these very deeply throughout the entire presentation here. But for quick reference, you'll note that on the 8th, we do have a full moon and lunar eclipse in Taurus. This will round out the eclipse season for us at this half of the year. They will return in the April-May timeframe. So this is where you want to be checking your eclipses. I'll show you the chart for this, and we'll talk a little bit more about how that might be affecting you and what it might be feeling like if you're feeling it at all. That does happen. So it's totally normal if really it's just, ooh, pretty eclipse, and that's fine. Sagittarius season begins on the 22nd, and on the 23rd, immediately following that, we do have the new moon in Sagittarius as well. And you can see I've written down the times here for anybody who likes to do any ritual work or any devotional work with the lunations and the changing of the seasons. So moving into the actual month, we have the 1st through the 10th is a couple transits happening here, and I like to personify each week with a little bit of a theme that you might be able to say, oh wow, this week is doing that. This one is Hear Me Roar, and that's because you can see Venus is doing a lot here. And because the eclipse is taking place in Taurus, which is actually Venus's domicile. So even if she's not like directly involved, Venus is involved in each of these transits, because Uranus, even down here, is in Taurus, which is Venus's domicile. So that's what we're experiencing as we kick off the month. The very first aspect of November is Venus opposing Uranus, who is retrograde in her sign of Taurus. And so this is us feeling at odds with change. Venus right now is also in Scorpio, where Venus finds her detriment because it is opposing Taurus, her home. She is in exile or in detriment in the opposite place. So that is one of the reasons that Venus is not in her most comfortable place or space right now. And she's dealing with Uranus being sort of a wrecking ball or a bulldozer through her sign, which Uranus has been doing for quite a few years now. So we still have a few years of that left, and Venus will continue to interact with Uranus, as will the rest of the planets, and vice versa. So what we might feel with this is a little bit at odds, that tension of the opposition at odds with the change that Uranus is bringing. And this aspect itself actually reminds me of the serenity prayer, which is, grant me the serenity to change that which I can change, to accept that which I can't change, and it's the courage to change what I can change, the patience to accept what I can't change, and the wisdom to know the difference. I think this day is going to remind us of that possibility and that superpower that we all have as well. On the 7th, Venus will square Saturn, and this I kind of picture as remodeling the basement. I say this because This is the not pretty work, right? Venus is in Scorpio. We're not doing the pretty work. We're doing the necessary work. We're giving ourselves an internal makeover, and Saturn is supporting that through conflict. So we're bringing this into Venus being overcoming for Saturn. So really drawing the necessity for bringing our feelings, our emotions, and our intentions into that which we are building. So it feels a lot like remodeling, or maybe even the demolition phase of a remodel, so that you can rebuild those structures of Saturn and really make the walls where you want them and the framing where you want it. So it's kind of like remodeling the basement, working from the groundwork up, so that when we do the pretty work, we have a good foundation and good walls and good bones to continue the construction metaphor. So that's on the 7th. And then that immediately is followed by our November 8th full moon total lunar eclipse in Taurus. If you're interested, that will be complete or perfect at 6:02 a.m. the morning of November 8th. And that's in Eastern time. So you want to adjust your time zone to see when the moon is actually doing that in your time zone, or for you, or in your sky. So one of the things that we're focusing on, and we'll look at the chart on the very next slide for this, but the thing that we're noticing with eclipses is it's very new beginning, new endings kind of things. It's a bookmark or a bookend kind of situation when the sun and the moon kind of cancel each other out this way. So this is when the moon is eclipsed by the earth coming between the sun and the moon. So we don't get the full moon that we normally would. The moon will likely be red in the sky. And I believe this is visible in the United States and North America, more towards the central and west, if I'm correct. But that's definitely worth looking into if you're interested in whether or not you'll be able to see it. And I'm sure there will be live streams as well. So new beginnings, new endings with structures and processes, possibly around women and relationships, because again, we are noticing this is in Taurus. And the masculine voices that are overpowering them. I'm going to show you the T-square that is making me wonder if this is going to bring more of those themes up. So it doesn't necessarily have to be these themes, but it's something that I'm wondering if we'll notice more of in all of the expressions that we can find these. So again, next slide, we'll dive into that deeper, because we do on the 9th have the sun opposing Uranus, which marks a time of curtailed passage. That's some astrology term for you, which just means that Uranus is just about halfway through their retrograde cycle. So we're gaining this understanding of the changes that have been happening over the course of most of the year now, and really understanding the changes that are kind of coming to us. And now we get to consciously implement the changes as well. So noticing that something big has changed over time, and now moving with it and implementing it and applying it, and starting to actively create these changes. On the 10th, we have Mercury square Saturn and Venus trine Neptune on the same day. So we're choosing our words carefully here, because Mercury squaring Saturn might make us, we'll choose our words carefully, but are they the words we wish we would have chosen in that moment? I'm not sure. So that Venus trine Neptune really helps bring some heart into the matter. Even though Venus is still in detriment, we're looking at how can we think about what we say and make sure that what we say has deep meaning rather than deep cutting. That's something to keep in mind around the 10th as you start interacting with other people. Now, let's look at this eclipse. So here's the chart for the eclipse. I don't want you to focus too much on the house system with this. Personally, as an astrologer, I do prefer the whole sign house system, but what I've done for this, because the location doesn't really matter for this instance, is I just put the moon on the ascendant here. So this is just so we can see the moon in relation to everything else and really prioritize what's happening with this moon. So the houses are not as important. If you're looking for your horoscope for what this full moon does for you, you want to check Taurus in your own chart and see what house Taurus falls in. I also will, of course, be posting horoscopes for each rising sign on my TikTok at The Real Crystalline on TikTok and Instagram, and I will do that math for you. I will figure out what area of life it is and give you some guidance and helpful little tidbits to navigate all of this because it is an eclipse. And so the recommendation is observe and allow. We're not really trying to push anything right now. We're trying to see what is being made available to us, what is happening around us, and how can we take the resources that are coming and harvest those and then make those. It's like when you eat seasonally, you take the food that's available then, and you're not saying, I need this food available then, but you do recognize that this is the time of growing this food. And this is the time of allowing the earth to tell you what's best. So we're allowing the cosmos to tell us what's best in this case as well. It's very much like that harvesting kind of analogy. So wherever Taurus is in your chart, that is the area of life you are feeling this. One thing to note, if it is angular, and by angular, I mean the first house, the seventh house, the 10th house, or the fourth house, this may be happening in your life personally. It's like very much in your sphere of influence and of notice. If it's happening in one of the houses in between, any of these non-angular houses, you may notice it's happening around you, but not necessarily to you and directly in your sphere. So that's just a nice way of understanding how everything works. It's not always something that's very much in your sphere. Sometimes it's the things around you and how they affect you. So those are things to keep in mind as well. And of course, horoscopes will be available on TikTok and Instagram as the day arrives. So I'll be there for you on that. But best thing I can suggest is to observe and allow. And if you're looking for an affirmation to help remind you of this and get you in the energy of creating that space, I am ready for something new. This eclipse is happening on the North Node, which in lore would be the mouth of the dragon, taking in new things, right? As compared to the solar eclipse, which was on the South Node of purging old things. So this is being ready for something new and allowing that to come into your space. All right, and then we just move into the very next week, which I've dubbed the inhale, exhale week. This is because we have a lot of, there's Mercury trine Neptune, the sun will square Saturn. It's a lot of taking these moments and just being very conscious with them. I'm going to update. At the same time, the moon will be conjunct a retrograde Mars, which is square Jupiter. So I want to make sure we draw that, activate those things and draw them in, even though they're not perfect or perfecting in the sky at that time. So looking at this, we see conflicts possibly around social structures. Saturn is in Aquarius. The sun is squaring from the sun's place in Scorpio. So we're thinking like, how are we unearthing some things here? How are we saying this structure could be better? It's like noticing a bridge and then saying, it's rusting a little bit. We need to make sure we take care of that before it becomes a problem. So this is a great opportunity that you might notice places in your life of noticing where something is getting a little bit weak and could use some empowerment. So keep that in mind, especially with Mars and the moon conjunct. We'll have the energy to do that. We'll have the ideas for it since Mars is in Gemini and in that retrograde phase. So we're probably noticing some stuff coming up from previous that really informs our actions on this one. And this is one of the few times that Mars really gets a say before the end of the month as well. So it's kind of opportune to be able to take that energy when we have it, that burst of aha moments that we might get from this. All right. And then on the 12th, Mercury trines Neptune. I call this Sweet Little Lies, the song, Tell Me Lies, Tell Me Sweet Little Lies, because Mercury is in Scorpio. Again, we like to hide things in there. Scorpio is the depths, right? You'll either dig things up or you might bury them. So whichever of these two is, it might be Sweet Little Lies because Neptune is making things a little bit confusing. But it also might be really understanding a divine truth that may take some effort to really allow yourself to want to process, just because, again, Scorpio really likes to go deep and purge things and allow those to be like, we cleanse ourselves and we transform through the death and rebirth process in Scorpio. And Mercury is really a translator of that, with Neptune kind of helping us to see the ideals of what could be on the horizon. But really Mercury saying, this is what we've got to go through to get there. And here are the truths of the matter that we need to kind of go through in order to be able to accept and integrate and move forward. On the 13th, Venus will form a sextile aspect with Pluto, and there is this little grand water trine going on at the time. I think we'll be able to see that in our next slides as well. So we're digging up some old issues for proper burial, continuing this scorpionic, plutonic theme of what is being kind of, what are the skeletons in your closet? I think later this month, I even have getting to know the skeletons in your closet as something that you learn to do. We learn to view ourselves holistically, and we learn to accept all phases of ourselves, and to take that Venusian ability to love and say that even the parts of me that have yet to transform, I love those too. And the parts of me that are transforming, I'm looking forward to getting to know that version of me as well. On the 14th, Mercury will follow suit and form that sextile with Pluto, helping us to really communicate that, really getting it into our minds and to really think about it a little bit more as the sun forms a trine with Neptune now. So this trine with Neptune does note that Neptune is getting ready to station direct. It's going to take a while. We're at a phase where Neptune's going to slow down and almost stand still right now. And the very next, a couple days later, actually, Jupiter is going to do that too. They're both in Pisces at this point. So we have these penetrative conversations, these, it's epiphanies, but not like eureka epiphanies, but just this, oh, wow, I finally get it kind of acceptance epiphanies that we may find around this time. And of course, having conversations with people might help to really draw those out because Mercury is involved and the sun is putting energy into that. The 15th has Venus trine Jupiter, who is still retrograde in Pisces as well. This is a great time for meditation because, again, Venus in a deep place, Jupiter in a deep place. If we think of the water signs, which are Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces, two of them are at play here. We have Scorpio, which would be like the ocean, but then Jupiter is in Pisces. And that's like the Marianas Trench. It's super deep. That's the unconscious, that sea of subconscious kind of space. So we're taking our deep thoughts and really taking them into our spirituality, into our beliefs. And so this might be a really good day for a carpool or ancestral work, doing a lot of belief work, letting that internal stuff transform. So meditation is also a great idea for this on the 15th, when the benefics trine each other in the middle of November. On the 16th, Mercury follows suit. You can tell Mercury and Venus are running together for a lot of this month. So Mercury will do what Venus did and sort of follow the leader to trine Jupiter. And Venus at this time will also move into Sagittarius. We're right at the end of Scorpio with these placements. So on this day, we're going to have the opportunity for deep conversations that expand our worldview because Jupiter also rules Sagittarius and Jupiter loves to expand. Sagittarius loves to explore, loves new things, loves all of the shinies that we can pursue and follow and that curiosity that goes along with it. So our worldview and our values with Venus coming in there, we're really going to start exploring how what we feel informs what's important to us, which informs how we act, which really creates the world that we interact with. So this is going to be an interesting time of really noticing all of that. And it's going to be at the top of our minds with Mercury trine Jupiter at this point. So allowing those deep unconscious things to come to the surface so that we can actively be involved in the creation of our lives. One decision at a time, which is how it goes. The 17th shows Mercury moving into Taurus. Now, Mercury is in detriment in Taurus. Venus the day before moved into, Sagittarius, not Taurus. Mercury is in detriment in Sagittarius. Venus has now escaped her detriment. She's doing better in Sagittarius. It's not her strongest placement by any means, but it's better than feeling ostracized. So Mercury now moves into a place that is opposite his domicile or their domicile, where Mercury rules Gemini and Virgo. Sagittarius is opposite of Gemini. So now we see Mercury feeling less at home, but it's not necessarily a bad thing here. I always find Mercury and Sagittarius to be quite interesting because Mercury is kind of busy in their thoughts and busy in their thinking and their curiosity. So you can apply that. Just know that it might be a lot of thinking. It might be overthinking. It might be too many decisions or decision overwhelm or decision paralysis we come upon because there's so many options. I'm not sure which decision to take or which path to go towards. So Mercury has our minds just thinking of all the things, and you can apply that in your life by allowing yourself to imagine all of the possibilities and then to see which one feels most in alignment with you and the choices you want to make. Then we move into the next week because we do have the new moon and Sagittarius season. They are in this week. So we'll see their charts following this. And we're already over halfway through November at this point. So this is a time of renewed faith. If I categorized it in a simple way or oversimplified it, the sun will kick off the week with a sextile to Pluto. This is opportunities to evolve or to destroy. Now, destruction is not always a bad thing. Okay. So if we're looking at this and we're saying, this is an opportunity to get rid of that which no longer serves me, and I can just purge it and be done with it, that's really amazing. So knowing that you have the opportunity today to evolve through releasing what no longer serves you to create space for this potential that you can step into, that's kind of what I'm thinking about for this day. Then following that on the 19th, Mars, who is retrograde, will square an equally retrograde Neptune. And so we may have, I say confused words and veiled threats. Again, this is an archetype for us to lean into. Confused words, Mars is in Gemini, Neptune's in Pisces. Things are dissolving as far as, we're kind of second guessing ourselves, which is uncharacteristic for Mars, but he's in retrograde. So am I really doing this? Did that go well the first time? Should I do that? But I really I want to move, but I can't. I feel a little bit held back. And Neptune is trying to sort of soothe that burn. But Mars is the overcoming factor in this. So we see Mars kind of having the upper hand, and Mars being the more personal planet, really affecting us and saying, hey, this is how I feel. This is what I'm thinking. Just make sure that you kind of go through that with yourself first. Maybe write letters today so that you can see on paper what you're thinking, or pursue some artistic expression so that you can understand what's going on in your mind before expressing it to another person. Not so that you spare someone else's feelings, because by all means, you might end up saying something just in a very conscious way that leads to change, but so that you can know yourself and feel good about how you're about to express yourself, or about how you're going to move forward next. On the 20th, the sun will trine Jupiter, which brings warm and fuzzies, but also this trine does mark that Jupiter is now stationing and getting ready for this journey of going direct again. That will not happen this month, but Jupiter is getting ready to stand still and then move forward. So Jupiter has been retrograde. I actually have it in my notes here. I think Jupiter has been retrograde, I believe, since May. So it's been a while of just feeling like, wow, I could use some movement here. I could use some progress. I could use some expansion and some hope and faith. And so we're coming into that now. We're noticing, hey, I'm kind of feeling like it's time again, that I can feel this again, which is nice. Mercury will conjoin Venus. Speaking of feeling things again, on the 21st, Mercury is chatty. Venus is very much Venusian. And sometimes that is the gossip, the rumors, the well, actually kind of energy. They are in Sagittarius. So Sagittarius loves knowing things. And Sagittarius is a fire sign with Mercury in there. It might be the, hey, I know something about this. And that may be an invited tidbit of knowledge, or it may be uninvited. So be aware of unsolicited advice this day, whether it's you giving it or receiving it. So that's the kind of energy that we might see as Mercury combines with Venus. It comes from a caring place, but it's very rapid fire. And then we round out this part of November with Sagittarius season, a season of walking the talk and leaps of faith, which I will show you on the very next chart. And also the new moon in Sagittarius, which will be on the 23rd. And this is kind of a very similar chart because it's the very next day, but the moon brings something in with this that helps us to pause and reverence before moving forward with that new moon. And so we'll go ahead and we'll take a look at those charts right now. This is Sagittarius season. And I love the idea of expressing Sagittarius season as just recognizing I am the entire universe. So this is an awesome time to be exploring and getting new ideas. And you can do that through travel, exploring like physically, but you can explore through books, through podcasts, through documentaries, through research, through even like search engines, just things that really expand your horizons and your worldview. This is also a great time to learn something or to really begin mastering a technique, maybe taking up a new course or anything like that. And of course, what we'll see here is the sun, of course, again, is just on the horizon here. The time and the place aren't really of note for this. You'll just want to look at where Sagittarius is in your chart, and you'll want to adjust it to the time in your time zone that aligns with about 3:20 a.m. Eastern time, if you want to be up at that point to be able to do something to honor the sun coming into Sagittarius. Also, happy solar return time to all of the Sagittarius suns that are watching this. I have many of them in my life, actually, so it'll be a busy month for us here. One thing to notice is we do have Mercury and Venus still conjunct. We talked about that previously. And let me just look at my slides here, make sure I'm not missing anything. The Mars and Neptune square is now coming into play. As you can see, we have Mars here and we have Neptune here. And Mars is actually also moving towards a trine, as Mars is retrograde and Saturn is slow. Mars is moving towards that trine with Saturn, which we will see later on. That will actually happen on the 28th. So a couple days after this, Mars will actually scoot backwards enough to form that perfect trine with Saturn. And so what we're seeing is, again, we're taking leaps of faith. We're seeing changes on the horizon for everything that's going on in our lives, and just allowing this kind of ingress of the holiday season, as we'll notice, really bringing that hope that goes along with it, that wonder that comes along with it. And we're even starting to look so far into the future as to think about what happens next year. So that's kind of that Sagittarius season quintessential vibe. This is something that you feel every year. So just knowing what Sagittarius season usually feels like for you, and then knowing that the sky this year is really emphasizing a lot of Sagittarius energy with Venus and Mercury conjunct right there near the sun. The moon is about to be new. So we can see the moon's coming up on the sun there. Not quite there yet, actually kind of still in the beams of the sun, just about coming into a balsamic phase of really helping us to integrate that. So we will see the new moon on the next slide. And as you can see, the very next day, the moon has scooted all the way over to conjoin with the sun. Again, I just put the moon on the horizon here, so don't worry too much about the layout of the chart. We're looking at the transits, and you can see we've got a lot going on in the half of the chart. There really is nothing happening up here. So a lot of our focus is in the areas of life that are between Sagittarius and Gemini in your chart. You'll notice those are the busy areas of your life right now. And we are seeing this is just making yesterday's themes, the themes of Sagittarius season, feel more personal, because the moon has activated with a lunation, with a new moon, really brought it and made it something that we are now taking into our hearts and putting into action in this next lunation cycle. So looking at this, we've got Jupiter, who is stationing slowly but surely. So the sun is at 1 degree here. Jupiter is over here. They have had their trine already. So Jupiter is going to be hanging out here for a while before finally saying, yep, I'm ready to move forward again, and recovering those degrees in Aries that he's been covering since May. And so we're also noticing, let's see, the Mars, Neptune, Saturn situation, which I pointed out. So we're good on that. And it is just a lot of energy in this side of the chart that we get to really start sinking into. So if you're a Sagittarius rising person, there's a lot of personal thoughts going on, kind of maybe seeping into personal relationships as well. So thinking about that. And of course, if you're wondering how this stuff shows up in your chart, I do offer consultations where I can help you kind of pull this apart and translate it as well. It's my favorite thing to do. So I'd be happy to do that with you. My affirmation recommended for this Sagittarius new moon, it is the first new moon after eclipse season. So this is a new moon that if you're someone who works with the lunations or the new moons and you're ready to manifest, this is the time to do it again. So I decide whatever I decide I am, or I am whatever I decide I am. So that means, again, you create your reality, you create your personality. And this is a great time for a manifesting list with resources to learn. So this is what I want. This is how I can achieve it. And so I do recommend signing up for a course, or booking a retreat, or doing something that is going to maybe push you a little bit out of your comfort zone so you can expand that comfort zone to something bigger. And that will lead us into truly the last couple days of November, where we see Mars retrograde trine Saturn at this point. So that's supporting the strategy to sort of accomplish all of our mental tasks. This is an air trine aspect between Saturn and Mars. Mars is the overcoming aspect in it. So Mars has the upper hand. And Saturn is really supporting that. So Mars is saying, hey, I need to stand on these stilts and see the entire picture and get an idea. And Saturn is lifting that up and making that possible. And then on the 29th, if my brother is watching this, this is his birthday, so happy birthday. Mercury will oppose Mars. And so that means that Mars is in Gemini, which Mercury rules, and Mercury is in Sagittarius. So Mercury is not feeling entirely strong, but really is involved with this aspect at the same time as the Sun will also have a sextile, or Saturn will also have a sextile with Mercury. So I'm noticing this as maybe possible Freudian slips, saying what you meant to say, but not meaning to say it. So make sure, again, you give yourself some time to really either think about what you're going to say, or if you say something, process what informed that, what belief that came from. Why do you feel that way? And Freudian slips can be good things just as much as they can be slip ups. They can be something that helps you acknowledge, oh, wow, I didn't know I thought that way, but now I do. So that's a wonderful way to really think about tempering our temper, but also thinking about how we can expand ourselves, expand our understanding, expand our forgiveness, expand our acceptance of ourselves and other people through these things that really help to bring acknowledgement to things that are going on. So that is November. I want to thank you so much. You can stay connected, as I've mentioned, on TikTok and Instagram at The Real Crystalline. And here on the Alchemist Inkwell YouTube, you can observe the podcast through video, which is super fun for us. And you can also check that out wherever podcasts are available for you. And of course, we do have a Patreon now too, so there will be extra videos depending on if you're a patron or not. I know last month I did a charm to protect from curses and manners of negative witchcraft based on Brahari, and we'll be doing another one, of course, this month. So more fun things that we are involved with, and we love to work with you. Emily and I love to be able to interact with you. I love to be able to offer intuitive and astrological readings. If you're interested, I'll be looking forward to connecting with you however you feel most comfortable and you feel drawn, through Instagram and TikTok, YouTube, in person where we get to chat during consultations, or whatever the universe draws together for us. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen, and thank you once again, and hope that you have a very blessed and wonderful November. Bye, guys.